There comes a moment in life when you must ask yourself a difficult question. Is my kindness producing peace, or is it costing me my peace? Many people have been taught that if they just become more patient, more forgiving, more understanding, everything will eventually get better. They believe that giving more will automatically produce gratitude. They believe that sacrificing themselves will somehow earn respect. But life teaches a different lesson. Kindness is one of the greatest strengths a human being can possess. But kindness without wisdom becomes vulnerability. Compassion without boundaries becomes exhaustion. Generosity without discernment becomes an invitation for exploitation. Today's message is not about becoming cold. It is not about becoming hateful. It is not about seeking revenge. It is about becoming wiser. It is about protecting your purpose, your peace, and your dignity. Because your life was never designed to revolve around managing someone else's unhealthy behavior. Your life was designed to fulfill a purpose far greater than constantly proving your worth to people unwilling to value it. So listen carefully. This message may change how you protect your heart, how you value yourself, and how you walk through every relationship from this day forward. Many people grow up believing that being kind means always saying yes, always giving another chance, always putting other people's feelings ahead of their own, and always avoiding conflict. While kindness is one of the greatest qualities a person can possess, it becomes unhealthy when it is separated from wisdom. True kindness should never require you to abandon yourself. It should never force you to sacrifice your peace, your dignity, or your emotional well-being simply to keep someone else comfortable. There is a profound difference between being compassionate and becoming a person who constantly ignores their own needs. Healthy kindness begins with self-respect. It recognizes that every human being, including you, deserves care, honesty, and consideration. When you continually place another person's wants above your own values, boundaries, and emotional health, kindness slowly transforms into self-abandonment. This is not because kindness is weak, but because kindness without limits loses its balance. It no longer reflects generosity. It reflects fear, the fear of disappointing others, the fear of rejection, or the fear of being misunderstood. One of the most important lessons in emotional intelligence is understanding that your value is not measured by how much you can tolerate. Many people believe enduring unhealthy treatment proves loyalty or strength. In reality, emotional maturity is not demonstrated by how much pain you can absorb. It is demonstrated by how wisely you protect your peace while continuing to treat others with dignity. You can remain respectful without allowing disrespect. You can remain compassionate without accepting harmful behavior. You can forgive without placing yourself back into the same unhealthy pattern. Imagine a homeowner who never locks the front door because they want everyone to feel welcome. At first, this may appear generous, but eventually people with harmful intentions may take advantage of that openness. The homeowner has not become more loving by removing every boundary. They have simply made themselves vulnerable. The same principle applies to your emotional life. Boundaries are not barriers against love. They are safeguards that protect what is valuable. They preserve your emotional energy, your time, your confidence, and your purpose. Many individuals become trapped in cycles of people-pleasing because they believe love must always be earned. They think if they are patient enough, helpful enough, or accommodating enough, they will finally receive appreciation and respect. But healthy relationships are not built upon endless self-sacrifice. They are built upon mutual respect, honest communication, shared responsibility, and consideration for each other's well-being. When one person continually gives while the other continually takes, the relationship becomes unbalanced. Over time, this imbalance often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and a loss of self-confidence. Another important truth is that saying no does not make you selfish. It makes you responsible. Every successful person understands that time, energy, and attention are valuable resources. You cannot give them away endlessly without eventually feeling depleted. Just as a phone battery must be recharged to function effectively, your emotional strength requires care and restoration. Constantly ignoring your own needs eventually leaves you with very little to offer anyone, including yourself. Self-respect also teaches you that disagreement is not the same as disrespect. Many people avoid setting boundaries because they fear conflict. They assume that if someone becomes upset, they have done something wrong. But emotionally healthy adults understand that temporary discomfort often accompanies necessary growth. Not everyone will celebrate your boundaries. Some people become uncomfortable when they can no longer benefit from your lack of them. That does not mean your boundaries are wrong. It often means they are working. One of the greatest signs of maturity is learning that you do not have to explain every decision to gain approval. You are allowed to protect your peace without feeling guilty. You are allowed to decline invitations, limit unhealthy conversations, or step away from relationships that consistently undermine your emotional well-being. These decisions are not acts of revenge, they are acts of stewardship. They demonstrate that you understand the importance of caring for the life you have been entrusted with. Your identity should never depend upon another person's acceptance. If your confidence rises and falls based solely on someone else's opinion, your emotional stability will always remain uncertain. Lasting confidence grows from understanding your values, living with integrity, and making decisions that align with your principles. When you know who you are, you stop chasing validation from every voice around you. You become less concerned with pleasing everyone and more committed to living with purpose and character. It is also important to remember that kindness is most powerful when it is intentional rather than automatic. Giving because you genuinely choose to help is very different from giving because you fear rejection. Serving others from a place of strength is inspiring. Serving others while silently neglecting yourself eventually produces resentment. Healthy generosity flows from a full heart, not an empty one. The strongest people are not those who endlessly sacrifice themselves for approval. They are those who have learned to care deeply for others while remaining faithful to their own values and emotional health. As you continue growing, remind yourself that your life has purpose beyond earning acceptance. Your gifts, talents, dreams, and calling deserve your attention. Every moment spent abandoning yourself to satisfy unhealthy expectations is a moment that could have been invested in becoming the person you were created to become. Choose kindness, but let wisdom guide it. Choose compassion, but let self-respect protect it. Choose forgiveness, but never confuse forgiveness with abandoning healthy boundaries. The world needs people who are both kind and wise. People whose compassion is strengthened by courage, whose generosity is guided by discernment, and whose love for others never requires them to lose themselves. That is not selfishness. That is emotional maturity. That is genuine strength. That is how lasting peace, healthy relationships, and meaningful purpose are built. One of the greatest advantages you can develop in life is the ability to recognize emotional manipulation before it influences your decisions. Manipulation is often subtle rather than obvious. It rarely begins with loud arguments or direct control. Instead, it can appear through repeated patterns that gradually shape how you think, feel, and respond. This is why emotional intelligence is such an important life skill. It allows you to observe behavior objectively instead of becoming overwhelmed by every emotional situation. When you understand these patterns, you gain the freedom to choose your response rather than reacting automatically. Every person experiences emotions, and emotions are valuable because they help us understand ourselves and connect with others. However, emotions are meant to inform your decisions, not control them. When someone consistently relies on guilt, blame, confusion, or emotional pressure to influence your choices, they are shifting the focus away from honest communication and toward emotional control. This can leave you feeling uncertain, anxious, or responsible for problems that are not truly yours. Over time, constantly responding from emotion instead of wisdom can drain your confidence and make it harder to trust your own judgment. A common pattern of emotional manipulation is making another person feel responsible for someone else's emotions or behavior. Instead of taking responsibility for their own choices, a person may repeatedly suggest that their unhappiness, anger, or disappointment exists because of you. While healthy relationships involve empathy and mutual care, each individual remains responsible for managing their own emotions. Compassion does not require carrying burdens that belong to someone else. Emotional maturity means offering support without accepting responsibility for another person's decisions or reactions. Another pattern involves inconsistency. Imagine receiving warmth, appreciation, and encouragement one day, only to experience criticism, distance, or silence the next, without any clear explanation. This unpredictable cycle can create confusion and emotional dependence because people naturally seek consistency. When approval becomes unpredictable, many individuals begin working harder to regain it. They start questioning themselves, changing their behavior, and sacrificing their own needs in hopes of restoring harmony. The more unpredictable the approval becomes, the more energy they invest trying to earn it. This cycle can become emotionally exhausting because it shifts attention away from healthy mutual respect and toward constant uncertainty. Blame shifting is another behavior that deserves careful attention. In healthy communication, both people are willing to examine their own actions, apologize when necessary, and work towards solutions together. In unhealthy dynamics, responsibility is repeatedly redirected. Conversations that begin with a concern may somehow end with you feeling entirely at fault, even when the original issue has never been addressed. This pattern creates confusion because it replaces accountability with distraction. Emotionally intelligent individuals learn to separate facts from emotional pressure. They calmly ask themselves, what actually happened? Rather than accepting every accusation without reflection. One of the most valuable habits you can develop is the ability to pause before reacting. Immediate reactions often come from emotion, while thoughtful responses come from wisdom. When someone says something upsetting, your first emotional impulse may be to defend yourself, argue, apologize excessively, or attempt to fix the situation immediately. Yet a brief pause creates space for clarity. During that pause, you can evaluate the conversation, consider your values, and choose words that reflect your character instead of your temporary emotions. This simple habit strengthens emotional resilience and prevents unnecessary conflict. Self-awareness also plays a powerful role in protecting your emotional well-being. The more you understand your own fears, insecurities, and desires, the less likely they are to be used against you. For example, if you constantly seek approval from others, you may become more vulnerable to people who use praise or criticism to influence your decisions. If you fear rejection, you may find yourself agreeing with things that conflict with your values simply to avoid disappointing someone. Personal growth begins when you recognize these tendencies within yourself and choose to build confidence from your principles instead of external validation. Healthy communication is always rooted in honesty, respect, and consistency. It allows both individuals to express concerns without intimidation or emotional pressure. It encourages listening rather than constant defensiveness. It creates an environment where disagreements can exist without threatening the relationship itself. This is an important distinction because disagreement is a normal part of every healthy relationship. Manipulation, however, seeks control rather than understanding. Emotional intelligence allows you to recognize the difference and respond appropriately. Another important lesson is learning that you are not obligated to solve every emotional situation immediately. Many people feel pressured to respond the moment conflict arises, yet wisdom often requires reflection. Giving yourself time to think does not mean you lack compassion. It means you value thoughtful communication over impulsive reactions. Calm responses often resolve situations more effectively than emotionally charged conversations. People who master this habit develop greater confidence because they no longer allow every emotional moment to dictate their behavior. Emotional strength is not measured by how loudly you defend yourself or how quickly you respond to criticism. It is measured by your ability to remain grounded in your values even when emotions run high. A calm mind sees opportunities that an anxious mind overlooks. A peaceful heart hears truth more clearly than one consumed by fear or anger. This inner stability allows you to maintain dignity even during difficult conversations. Instead of reacting to every emotional wave, you become anchored by wisdom, self-control, and purpose. As you continue growing, remember that emotional intelligence is not about becoming cold or detached. It is about becoming intentional. You can remain compassionate while also being discerning. You can listen carefully without accepting every accusation as truth. You can care deeply for others without surrendering your own emotional health. Real strength is found in balance. The balance between empathy and wisdom, between kindness and discernment, between understanding others and remaining faithful to your own values. When you develop this balance, emotional manipulation loses much of its influence because your decisions are no longer driven by fear, guilt, or confusion. They are guided by clarity, character, and a quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and choosing your responses with wisdom rather than impulse. One of the greatest misconceptions about respect is the belief that it can be earned by constantly pleasing other people. Many individuals spend years believing that if they become more agreeable, more available, more accommodating, or more willing to sacrifice their own needs, they will eventually receive the appreciation they long for. While kindness and generosity are admirable qualities, they are not substitutes for self-respect. Lasting respect is not built through endless approval seeking. It is built through consistency of character, integrity in action, and the quiet confidence that comes from living according to your values. People naturally trust those whose words consistently match their actions. Consistency creates reliability, and reliability creates credibility. Imagine a lighthouse standing firm during a storm. Ships do not trust the lighthouse because it moves with every wave. They trust it because it remains steady regardless of the weather. In the same way, emotionally mature people become dependable because they remain guided by principles rather than temporary emotions or changing opinions. Their character does not shift simply because someone approves of them one day and criticizes them the next. They understand that stability is one of the foundations of genuine respect. Many people confuse being liked with being respected. These two things are not always the same. A person may receive praise because they never disagree, never establish boundaries, and always say yes, but that approval can disappear the moment they begin standing up for themselves. If acceptance depends entirely on constant agreement or endless sacrifice, it is often conditional rather than genuine. Respect, on the other hand, grows when people know what you stand for. It grows when your values remain clear, your words remain honest, and your actions consistently reflect your principles. This does not mean becoming stubborn or unwilling to listen. True consistency is not refusing to learn or improve. It means remaining faithful to your core values while staying humble enough to grow. Wise people welcome correction when it helps them become better, but they do not abandon their convictions simply because someone pressures them to change. They understand that maturity requires both confidence and teachability. Holding firmly to truth while remaining open to learning is one of the strongest expressions of emotional intelligence. One reason people struggle to maintain consistency is their desire for approval. Approval can feel rewarding because it gives temporary emotional comfort. Yet when approval becomes your primary goal, your identity begins to depend on external opinions rather than internal convictions. You may find yourself changing your beliefs, your behavior, or even your personality depending on who is around you. Over time, this creates confusion because you no longer know whether your decisions reflect your authentic values or your fear of disappointing others. Confidence weakens whenever identity depends upon constant validation. Emotionally healthy individuals recognize that not everyone will agree with their choices, and they make peace with that reality. They understand that disagreement is a normal part of life. Trying to satisfy every expectation is impossible because different people often expect different things. If you spend your life chasing universal approval, you will constantly change direction without ever feeling secure. But when your decisions are rooted in clear principles, you gain stability. You stop asking, will everyone approve of this? And begin asking, does this align with my values? That single shift transforms the way you approach relationships, work, and personal growth. Consistency also strengthens trust in every area of life. Consider a person who keeps their promises, arrives when they say they will, speaks honestly even when it is uncomfortable, and treats people with fairness regardless of status or circumstance. Such a person becomes known for their reliability. Others feel safe around them because their behavior is predictable in the best possible way. They are not controlled by moods or circumstances. Their integrity creates confidence in those around them. Respect naturally grows because people know they can depend on their character. There is another important lesson hidden within consistency: learning to say both yes and no with wisdom. Many individuals believe kindness means saying yes to every request. However, when every answer is yes, your yes begins to lose its value. Time, energy, and attention are limited resources. Every commitment requires an investment. Saying no to one opportunity often allows you to say yes to something more meaningful. Healthy boundaries are not signs of selfishness. They are signs of stewardship. They demonstrate that you understand your priorities and are willing to protect them. Integrity becomes especially important during difficult moments. Anyone can remain kind when life is easy. Anyone can speak respectfully when everything goes according to plan. The true measure of character appears during disappointment, criticism, failure, or conflict. Do your values remain intact when emotions rise? Can you communicate with dignity even when others disagree? Can you remain honest when dishonesty appears easier? These moments reveal the depth of your character far more than your achievements ever will. Another powerful principle is that respect begins with how you treat yourself. If you constantly ignore your own needs, dismiss your own values, or allow your boundaries to be crossed without response, you silently communicate that your well-being is unimportant. Others often take their cues from how you value yourself. This does not mean demanding admiration or acting superior. It means carrying yourself with quiet confidence, speaking truthfully, honoring your commitments, and refusing to compromise your integrity simply to gain temporary approval. Self-respect teaches others how to treat you because it establishes healthy expectations through consistent behavior. As your confidence grows, you will notice a remarkable change. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision, defend every choice, or seek permission to live according to your principles. This is not arrogance, it is emotional maturity. Mature individuals understand that they cannot control how others perceive them, but they can control the integrity with which they live. They invest their energy in becoming trustworthy rather than becoming universally liked. They know that popularity may come and go, but character endures. Always remember that your greatest reputation is not created by occasional impressive moments, but by the small, consistent decisions you make every day. Every promise you keep, every honest conversation you have, every boundary you maintain with respect, and every act of integrity strengthens the foundation of your character. Respect is not demanded through force, nor is it purchased through endless approval seeking. It is quietly earned through consistency, humility, courage, and unwavering commitment to your values. When your life reflects these qualities day after day, you become someone whose presence inspires confidence, whose words carry weight, and whose character remains steady regardless of changing circumstances. That kind of respect cannot be manufactured, manipulated, or borrowed. It is built patiently through a lifetime of living with purpose, integrity, and unwavering self-respect.
One of the most liberating truths you will ever discover is that your life begins to change the moment you stop trying to control people and start taking full responsibility for yourself. Many individuals spend years believing that their happiness depends on changing someone else's attitude, behavior, or opinion. They invest enormous amounts of emotional energy trying to convince, rescue, fix, or transform another person. They replay conversations in their minds, search for the perfect words, and hope that one more explanation will finally produce a different outcome. While this desire often comes from a sincere place, it can also become one of the greatest obstacles to personal growth. Lasting peace is rarely found in controlling others. It is found in mastering yourself. Every person has the freedom to make choices. This freedom is one of the greatest gifts of human life, but it also means that no one can force another person to change. Real change happens when individuals become willing to examine themselves, accept responsibility, and make different decisions. No amount of pressure, persuasion, or sacrifice can replace that personal choice. Understanding this truth allows you to release unrealistic expectations and focus your energy where it can produce meaningful results. Instead of asking, how do I make them become different? You begin asking, how can I become wiser, stronger, and more purposeful? That question opens the door to genuine transformation. Many people unknowingly postpone their own growth because they become preoccupied with someone else's behavior. They delay pursuing their dreams because they are waiting for another person's approval. They postpone their peace because they hope someone will finally apologize. They put their confidence on hold because they are still trying to prove their worth to someone who refuses to recognize it. This creates a cycle where your future becomes dependent on circumstances you cannot control. Emotional maturity breaks that cycle by teaching you that your purpose is too valuable to remain trapped by someone else's decisions. Imagine a gardener tending a beautiful garden. The gardener cannot force the sun to shine or command the rain to fall, but they can prepare the soil, remove weeds, plant healthy seeds, and consistently care for the garden. Their attention remains focused on what they can influence rather than what lies beyond their control. Personal growth follows the same principle. You cannot control every situation that enters your life, but you can control how you respond. You can choose your attitude, your habits, your priorities, your words, and your actions. These daily choices shape your future far more than trying to manage someone else's behavior ever will. Growth also requires the courage to release unrealistic expectations. Sometimes people expect others to provide the confidence they have not yet developed within themselves. They expect constant encouragement before taking action. They expect validation before believing in their own abilities. Yet confidence grows through action, not through waiting for universal approval. Every small decision made with courage strengthens your belief in yourself. Every challenge overcome increases your resilience. Every lesson learned through experience builds wisdom that no external praise can replace. Another important aspect of personal growth is recognizing that disappointment can become a powerful teacher. Difficult relationships, painful experiences, and unmet expectations often reveal areas where we need greater wisdom, stronger boundaries, or deeper emotional maturity. While these experiences are rarely enjoyable, they often become turning points that shape stronger character. Rather than asking, "Why did this happen to me?" Emotionally resilient people eventually begin asking, what can this experience teach me? That simple shift transforms setbacks into opportunities for growth. The experience may remain difficult, but its purpose becomes greater than its pain. Personal responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything that happens. It is about accepting ownership of your response. You may not have chosen every challenge you have faced, but you always have the opportunity to choose the direction you move from here. This mindset removes the feeling of helplessness because it places your attention back on your own choices. Every day presents a new opportunity to think differently, speak differently, learn something new, improve a habit, strengthen your discipline, or take one more step toward your purpose. Progress is built through these consistent decisions, not through waiting for perfect circumstances. One of the greatest obstacles to growth is the habit of looking backward more than forward. Many people remain emotionally attached to past disappointments because they continue searching for explanations that may never come. They replay old conversations, revisit painful memories, and imagine different endings. While reflection can provide valuable lessons, living in the past prevents you from building the future. The windshield of a car is much larger than the rearview mirror for a reason. You were created to spend more time looking ahead than looking behind. The lessons belong in your memory, but your focus belongs on your destination. Purpose also becomes clearer when your attention shifts away from changing others. Every person has unique gifts, talents, abilities, and opportunities that deserve development. The hours spent worrying about someone else's choices could instead be invested in learning new skills, strengthening your health, serving your community, building meaningful relationships, or pursuing a worthwhile dream. Imagine the difference that could be made if the emotional energy once spent on frustration were redirected toward personal excellence. Small daily improvements accumulate into extraordinary results over time. There is remarkable freedom in realizing that your peace does not have to depend on another person's agreement. You no longer wait for everyone to understand your decisions before moving forward. You no longer require constant approval before pursuing your calling. You become anchored by your principles rather than by public opinion. This inner stability allows you to remain calm even when circumstances are uncertain because your confidence is rooted in character instead of external validation. As your personal growth continues, you begin to notice a profound change within yourself. You become less interested in winning arguments and more interested in building wisdom. You become less concerned with changing people and more committed to becoming the best version of yourself. Your conversations become more intentional. Your decisions become more thoughtful. Your relationships become healthier because they are built upon mutual respect rather than constant attempts to control outcomes. Instead of chasing temporary acceptance, you begin living with lasting purpose. Never forget that your greatest responsibility is not managing another person's life. It is faithfully developing your own. Invest in your character, strengthen your discipline, expand your knowledge, protect your peace, build healthy habits, walk with integrity. Continue growing even when others refuse to grow alongside you. The most inspiring people are rarely those who successfully changed everyone around them. They are the ones who transform themselves through wisdom, perseverance, humility, and purpose. When you commit to that journey, you discover a powerful truth. The life you have always hoped for begins the moment you stop trying to control what belongs to others and fully embrace responsibility for what belongs to you. That is where genuine freedom begins. That is where lasting confidence is built. And that is where true personal growth becomes unstoppable.